Part 36. Fantasy, Me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 351. It's the six paths of reincarnation. Countless creatures in the earthly immortal realm also saw this scene. The power of the six paths of reincarnation was too clear to them. Back then, Emperor Hades relied on the six paths of reincarnation to wipe out three great emperors. It was because of this that he in the battle, Hades' emperor established her invincible reputation in the earthly immortal world. She is undoubtedly the number one person among the true immortals in the earthly immortal world. The underworld is so powerful that no one in the earthly immortal world can stop it. Now that the two realms have merged, the underworld emperor's style has not changed. He is worthy of the name of the underworld. A quasi-emperor of the earthly immortal world spoke in a deep voice. Yes. Beside him, there was an old man standing, stroking his beard with his hand. His eyes were deep, not much worried, but with a hint of joking. He said softly. Now, why the earthly immortal realm was pulled out of the chaos has not yet been clarified. The Emperor of Hades is impatient to conquer the purple Xian realm. He might hit a snag. Not necessarily. Some people objected and said solemnly, no matter that era, it is always the first to strike first. Who can guarantee that the supreme figure who takes action to merge the earthly immortal world will live in the Zixuan world? After saying these words, many people's eyes flashed. This. Not unreasonable. When Zixuan realm fell into the hands of Emperor Hades, I wanted to get a piece of the pie from her, but it was very difficult. After all, the underworld didn't even give the Yugzu palace face. Nowadays, the Zixuan realm may have all its details, but these people are a bit unsatisfactory. Only Hades' emperor can crush him. If you don't take action, I'm afraid you won't even be able to drink the soup too late. Don't worry, this Zixuan realm is so vast that it can be called boundless. Just one force from the underworld cannot swallow up the entire world. When countless creatures in the earthly immortal world were talking about it, the war begins. The heavenly sword in the hands of Emperor Tiankai was radiating with light, and thousands of divine rays tore through the sky, splitting open the edges of the universe. The scene was extremely horrifying. Beside, the three great emperors, like gods, are also taking action. Their strength is frightening. The most central. The black jade stone is as stable as a mountain, standing tall in the vast sea of Wanyang, and the black world behind it shines with a blazing light. It's like a world-destroying mill, rumbling and turning, rolling for hundreds of millions of miles, sweeping out endless killing rays. Boom! The world trembled, the fairy light surged, and it was as vast as Wanyang. The five great emperors completely destroyed this wasteland of the universe. Countless people retreated again and again. They retreated a distance of several star fields, and they still felt that their souls the body is trembling and about to crack. This is a scene of world destruction. No one dares to approach. Even a great emperor must think twice before rashly intervening in the battlefield at this moment. The four great emperors of Zixuan realm came out together, but they were still at a disadvantage. It seemed that the outcome of this battle was determined. In the earthly immortal world, a tower towers into the sky, tens of thousands of meters high, with a myriad of atmospheres, and countless immortal lights blooming. A majestic figure stands on it, and his robes rustle. His eyes are looking at the battlefield without blinking, deep in his eyes, with a hint of imperceptible indifference. The name of Emperor Hades was forged with the emperor's blood. How could it be taken lightly? Especially her inheritance comes from a more terrifying world. It is said that her six paths of reincarnation also come from that terrifying world. The four great emperors of Zixuan realm alone may not be enough. The final result is just adding four dead souls to the six paths of reincarnation. A deep voice echoed between heaven and earth. There was no trace of it, but there was a ray of terrifying imperial power. Obviously. This is also an emperor who covets the Zixuan realm. The six paths of reincarnation has such power before it has been completely refined. If it is completely cast successfully, its power may eclipse the world. The stalwart figure, with a blurred face, whispered to himself. The six paths of reincarnation are one path of reincarnation. This kind of law is difficult for ordinary people to understand. Emperor Hades has been ahead of countless people from the starting point. The voice sounded again, very ethereal, as if coming from outside the sky, and it was impossible to discern his true location. The great emperor of Zixuan realm just now said the second or fourth words on the emperor list before the war started. Have you ever noticed? The stalwart figure, with his hands behind his back, looked at the Zixuan realm with his eyes, wanting to see through the whole world. His voice was solemn and he said solemnly. These four words, for some reason, gave me an ominous premonition. I always felt that there were secrets hidden in the Zixuan world that we had never discovered. Just making a fuss. Don't take it to heart. A mere Zixuan realm is like an ant nest. How can a real dragon jump out of it? The misty voice came, with a hint of disdain. What about the being who took action to merge the earthly immortal realm? People like that wouldn't waste their efforts integrating a world and gain nothing. The stalwart figure said softly. Those kind of figures are like the immortal kings in heaven, how can they be achieved by us? Maybe the fusion of the two worlds is just a game played by that being, and we are all pawns in its hands. That being may want to watch a good show between ants. The only responsibility of us ants is to make this show exciting enough. The master of the voice has placed his position very clearly. He can integrate with the earthly immortal world, but he is just one of all living beings in the earthly immortal world. Naturally, he cannot resist that supreme existence. Since he can't resist, why not accept everything calmly? Anyway, the integration of the two worlds will bring hundreds of benefits but no harm to the earthly and immortal world. You. The stalwart figure looked sideways and looked into the void. After a long time, he slowly said, what you said is not unreasonable. When he regards others as ants, who can guarantee that, above the 9 heavens, is there also a supreme being who regards himself and others as ants? If you can't resist the arrangement of fate, then follow the instructions of fate. Maybe. In this game, I can rise against the odds and make further progress. The 4 great emperors of Zixuan realm are going to be defeated, and we should take action. Otherwise, when Yugzu Palace and those behemoths with true immortal heritage take action, we will not even be able to drink soup. The owner of the voice spoke calmly. Before he finished speaking, the imperial power in the world suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in the sky above the Zixuan realm. Zixuan realm. On an ancient star. Several great emperors stood side by side, their faces very solemn. The emperor of the earthly immortal realm could see that Emperor Tiankai and the others were about to lose their hold. Why couldn't they? Senior Biluo. A great emperor spoke with anxiety on his face. Emperor Tiankai was different from Emperor Mon. It was fine that Emperor Mon was suppressed. After all, he was a new emperor. For Zixuan realm, it could only be regarded as a physical pain. But it can't be said to be a strain. But if the 4 people including Emperor Tiankai were also suppressed, then things would become completely serious. At that time, as their strength waxes and wanes, their next situation in the Zixuan realm will only become more severe. Please ask Senior Biluo to take action. Several emperors around them raised their hands at the same time and said in unison. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 352. This old bone of mine was put into the coffin with half a foot. Emperor Biluo looked around the void. Behind him was a vast world, boundless and magnificent. That was the place where he was born and raised, and the place where he fought when he was young. Never thought of it? In my lifetime, I can still fight for the Zixuan realm. Emperor Belogo is getting old. His hair is white and has lost its luster. It is like withered grass and is falling down. He is walking tremblingly on crutches. His faltering steps seem like he will fall down in the next second. He is above the stars, each step of the sky is 3 feet away, and the speed is very slow. In the eyes of many great emperors, it is almost extremely slow. But his steps are extremely firm. That thin, old body is like carrying a world on its back. As his body stepped into the sky, Emperor Belogo's waist gradually straightened. At this moment, he seemed to have turned into a towering giant mountain that reached into the sky, making it difficult to cross and look up. Emperor Belogo stood tall in the void, a head full of white hair dances in the wind, and the eyes bloom with eternal starlight, like 2 small suns, which are breathtaking. Below, countless creatures in the purple mystic realm look up at the void, their hearts are very heavy. Many people no longer recognize Emperor Belogo, or have even heard of his name. But at this time, when this extremely old emperor appears, everyone knows that he is fighting for the purple Xian realm with his broken body. Old friend, millions of years have passed, how much power do you still have left? Emperor Belogo whispered. As if he was reciting an ancient mantra, no movement was seen on his part. Deep in the purple mysterious realm, in a dry star field, suddenly there was a big star, blooming with immeasurable light. The light filled the sky like a stormy sea. Heavy, surging, sweeping in all directions. Boom! There was a loud noise. The big star exploded to pieces, and the debris flew in all directions. In the middle, a silver-white waning moon shed billions of divine radiance, illuminating the entire Zixuan realm and making countless people's minds sway. This is a powerful thing, the terrifying imperial soldiers. Now they have turned into a waning moon. The moonlight is like a flower, and the waning moon is like a hook, illuminating the starry sky for billions of miles. Blue sky bow. In the purple mystic realm, a great emperor took a breath of cold air, and a hint of joy rose in his eyes. This is the only imperial soldier in the purple mysterious realm who has entered the top 20 of the imperial arms ranking, besides the sky-shattering sword. Whose power is unstoppable, and has fought side by side with Emperor Belogo for millions of years. It can be said that in the entire world, no one knows Belogo Tiangong better than him, and no one knows Belogo Tiangong better than Belogo Tiangong. One person. One emperor's soldiers complement each other, and their combat power is by no means as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. Rank 17th on the imperial weapon ranking, and with the addition of Emperor Belogo, he might be able to fight against the 6 paths of reincarnation. A great emperor who was born with reverse horns, his eyes opened and closed, and his voice was a little heavy. Old friend, with today's battle, Belogo's name will spread throughout both worlds. Your existence will live up to your rank of 17th on the Emperor's weapon ranking. The great Emperor Belogo's voice was vicissitudes of life, and he whispered to himself. Beside him, the waning moon hung in the sky. He seemed to be standing at the end of the world, extremely far away, giving people an untouchable feeling. The great Emperor Belogo slowly raised his hand with his hand. He stood up, with nothing in his hand, and held it with his 5 fingers. The entire sky was instantly distorted, and a bright silk thread condensed out of thin air. The 2 ends of the thread were connected to the waning moon, like a bow of the gods, stretched across the sky. On the edge of the universe. The moment Belogo Great Emperor grabbed the bowstring, countless creatures in the earthly immortal world felt a chill in their hearts, as if they were locked by death. The whole person felt like falling into an ice cellar, his limbs were cold, and his body couldn't help it. Shivering. Stop him. In the earthly immortal world. A great emperor walked out, wearing black armor, and his tall figure was breathtaking. He threw a tianj in his hand, turned into a black thunder, smashed the sky, and quickly killed, the terrifying murderous aura was like a stormy wave crashing on the shore. It swept through billions of layers of sky. If you want to step into the purple mysterious realm, you must first pass this emperor's level. In the Zixuan realm. At the same time, a great emperor walked out. This great emperor had a reverse horn on his head, a tall body, and bulging muscles. He was naked, like a demon god, and faced the Tianj. Boom! Terrifying fluctuations came out, and the two emperors fought into the depths of the outer wilderness of the universe. Both sides knew very well that Emperor Beluga was going to use his trump card. One side wanted to cross the border immediately, while the other side tried desperately to stop it. For a while, it was difficult to tell the winner. In the sky, the body of Emperor Beluga remained motionless, and the battle below could not affect him in the slightest. He grabbed the bowstring with one hand, and with a click sound, the whole world began to twist, and endless streams of light gathered from all directions. It was endless. The essence of heaven and earth gathered on the bowstring and turned into an arrow that reached the sky and the earth. This arrow was too huge. Like a toppling pillar supporting the sky, the aura that destroyed everything rippled out, the murderous aura shook the sky and the earth, and even the emperor felt his scalp numb. Destroy! Emperor Beluga whispered. Next moment, with a buzz sound, the arrow shot out of the air, and the two huge worlds seemed to be ripped apart in an instant and completely divided into two. Before the arrow, everything was immortal and unstoppable. Boom! The huge arrow light was like a comet, with a long tail flame, passing through the sky. On the road ahead, countless big stars turned into powder. The void exploded and appeared. Thousands of cracks spread in all directions. In the center of the battlefield, the black jade was suspended in the void. A slim figure in the middle raised her head and looked at the outside world with a pair of beautiful eyes, showing a rare dignification. She said nothing, formed a seal with one hand, and a snow-white the crystal palm struck towards the sky. The power of this palm was extremely frightening, driving the monstrous avenue symbols to cover the sky and earth, shaking the past, present, and future. Boom! The palm collided with the arrow. The heaven and earth exploded, and two worlds appeared. They were all roaring, as if they were about to disintegrate. The terrifying aftermath swept across the boundless land, and countless stars, mountains, and rivers all turned into nothingness in an instant. I don't know how many creatures came from the fairy world, even the miserable ones. The cry didn't even come out, it just dissipated. Go back. Very far away. Countless people yelled. The people from the earthly immortal realm who arrived in advance quickly fled towards the distance. They miscalculated. When the huge forces such as Yugzu Palace did not take action, they should not have followed the underworld. She wants a share of the pie. Although the underworld is strong, it is obviously not enough to subdue the Zixuan realm. At this critical moment, Hades' emperor will only take action to protect his troops. She does not care about the life and death of others. Boom! The aftermath spread. The entire universe was completely clean. Looking hundreds of millions of miles away, there was nothingness and nothingness. Everything no longer existed. The battle just now did not even leave a single corpse. It seemed to have happened. Everything is an illusion. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 353. Senior. The great Emperor Tiankai and others walked out of the void covered in blood. They looked at the earthly immortal realm with no signs of slackness on their faces. Just now, the Beluga great emperor struck. Although many creatures from the earthly immortal realm were buried, the effect was not great. The earthly immortal realm is too vast. The people who came here just now are not even considered pioneers. They are just the tip of the iceberg. The real giants of the earthly immortal world are still waiting and watching, or waiting for opportunities. Once those forces take action, they will definitely kill. I'm not taking action now. I just want to see how deep the water in Zixuan realm is. When they find out the situation, the end of Zixuan realm will come. Senior, the underworld emperor of the earthly immortal realm. An emperor, with a pale face and half his body broken, held on to his injuries, stood beside Emperor Bilogo, and asked softly. Emperor Bilogo said nothing. After a while, he shook his head slightly. This move made countless people feel chilled. Even though he was as powerful as Emperor Bilogo and had spent his whole life, could such a powerful blow not be able to defeat Emperor Hades of the earthly immortal realm? Do we really have to wait for Emperor Bili and Emperor Unai to return? But no one knows where these two great emperors are now. Becoming an immortal is not that simple. The process may take just a moment, or it may take as long as 1,000 or 10,000 years. Wait for these two great emperors to return as immortals. Maybe, the purple mystic realm is no longer there. Second on the emperor list. Emperor Tiankai whispered, clenching his fists, and his heart was extremely complicated. In the past, most of the lists released by Tianji Tower are the Prodigy list, the Stunning list, and the Holy Lord list. For the Emperor, these lists are just for fun. But today, this Imperial list, just the second one, made the entire Zixuan realm breathless. You can imagine the gold content of the Emperor's list. They couldn't guess what kind of desperate situation the creatures of all races faced when the buried Emperor came to the Tianyuan realm that day. He was number 1 on the Emperor list. Its strength may have reached another level. Second on the Emperor's list, second on the Emperor's soldiers list, such strength. The Emperor, who was in trouble for the first time, returned. His face was as dark as water, his eyes looked around the void, and he couldn't find any trace of the black jade, and he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He continued. This kind of strength is amazing, but Senior Bilogo was also undefeated at the same level. It is estimated that Emperor Hades is also seriously injured at this moment. He didn't finish his words. Between heaven and earth, a ray of ink-colored brilliance bloomed, as if another world was connected here. There was the sound of armor clashing, and countless spears pointed straight to the sky, flashing with cold light. If you look carefully, it is not difficult to find that there are endless elite soldiers. Behind the soldiers, it was as if a huge millstone was turning, making a rumbling sound that shook the world and stirred up the aura of reincarnation. 6. Tau Reincarnation. A hint of helplessness appeared on the old face of Emperor Bilogo. His Bilogo heavenly bow, which has been intertwined with his life for millions of years, was forged by him. The 6 paths of reincarnation in the hands of Emperor Hades were not forged by her. Compared with others, he has been at a disadvantage invisibly. Is the war not over yet? The Emperor, who was born with an inverted horn, said bitterly. No. The Emperor Tiankai clenched the long knife in his hand and took a deep breath. The blood in his majestic body condensed and rumbled, crushing a large area of the sky. The war has just begun. Zixuan realm. In a barren mountain, a young man in black clothes was sitting cross-legged in the mountains. His black robe was fluttering and his breath was strong. His hair was naturally spread on his shoulders. He was sitting with his eyes closed. Soon after, boom, there was a loud noise. Infinite energy erupted from the Tianling cap, penetrated the clouds, and rushed into the sky like wolf smoke. Call. The young man in black breathed a sigh of relief. He opened his eyes. His eyes were bright and his black hair was thick. He was like the reincarnation of an immortal king. He was aloof and powerful. I finally made a breakthrough. I wonder where I will rank on the list of geniuses this time. Congratulations, young master, for making another breakthrough in cultivation. Beside the boy in black, an old woman in green bowed slightly and said in a gentle voice, "Aunt Lan, you don't need to be polite. You and I are a family, and we are also my elders. How can I accept a courtesy from you?" Fang Han stretched out his hands, helped the old woman up, and said quickly, "There is a distinction between superior and inferior, this is what I should do." Aunt Lan smiled slightly. She stood up and said, "Young master's strength has greatly increased. This time, he may be among the top 3 on the prodigy list." "Maybe." Fang Han clenched his fists, looked up into the void, a cold light flashed in his eyes, and said confidently, "When I become emperor, I will definitely kill the earthly immortal world to avenge the blood feud of the Fang family." During this period, he has been practicing hard and digesting the inheritance left by his ancestors. The result is obvious. His ranking on the list of geniuses in all realms has been rising like a rocket. From the original 10 apart from that, he is now about to break into the top 3. This speed can almost shock countless people. He thought to himself that if he is given 10,000 years, he will definitely become an emperor. At that time, he will return to the earthly immortal realm, Fuiyun Mountain, and the escaped immortal palace. These forces may not be able to stop him. After all, these forces are not controlled by true immortals. In a battle with the same level, Fang Han is not afraid of anyone. "Little lord." Aunt Lan looked complicated. Seeing her young master so passionate and still remembering the family blood feud, she couldn't feel relieved. That was impossible, but there were some things, and plans often couldn't keep up with the changes. "What's wrong?" Fang Han asked. Could it be that someone is an enemy of Aunt Lan? He still remembers the words of the senior Tianji building master back then. Aunt Lan is his only relative in this world. He saw his only relative fall. If it weren't for Aunt Lan, he himself would have died long ago. No. Aunt Lan shook her head. She glanced at the void in the distance, thought about it for a long time, and said softly, "The earthly immortal realm and the Zixuan realm, 2 into 1. What?" Fang Han's face froze, and he almost thought he heard wrongly. "The 2 worlds merged, what the hell is this?" But then, he quickly reacted and said in a deep voice, "Is it the senior Tianji building master who took action?" "It should be." Aunt Lan nodded. "The senior Tianji building master has already taken action to merge the Zixuan realm and Tianyuan realm. It is reasonable to merge into an earthly immortal realm. Now, my young master has not yet become an emperor, and has never returned to the earthly immortal realm. But the earthly immortal realm took the initiative to come over. This is nothing more than making things worse for their current situation. With the strength of Fuiyun Mountain and the escaped immortal palace, they can definitely hunt them down until they have no way to go to heaven and no way to enter the earth. If they are looking for Tianji Tower and ask the senior owner of Tianji Tower to take action. Even if they get wings, they will never escape the pursuit of Fuiyun Mountain. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 354. How could it be so fast? Fang Han was stunned for a moment. During this period, the speed of his rise is not bad, but no matter how fast he is, there is always a limit. Compared with a force that has been passed down for a long time, it is still far behind. Aunt Lan, when did this happen? Fang Han tried his best to regain his composure. After sorting out the thoughts in his mind, he quickly asked. 3 days ago. Aunt Lan said without hesitation. 3 days ago, the earthly immortal realm and the purple Xian realm merged, and a war broke out between the 2 realms on the edge of the universe. The Underworld Emperor was the first to cross over and fight against several great emperors from the purple Xian realm. At last, have the upper hand. Hades Emperor. Fang Han pursed his lips. He had heard the name of Emperor Hades before. He was an extremely tyrannical emperor, and he was even ranked second on the emperor list by the master of Tianji. Its strength goes without saying. Compared with many great emperors, he is more tyrannical. Coupled with the way the underworld operates, it makes sense to be the first to cross over. Later, several great emperors from the earthly immortal realm came to help. Now the Zixuan realm is retreating steadily, and a large area has fallen into the hands of the creatures from the earthly immortal realm. Even Aunt Lan said this, her words paused slightly, her expression was extremely solemn. "How's it going?" Fang Han asked. "Even the people from Fuiyun Mountain and the reclusive immortal palace have appeared." Aunt Lan sighed softly and said slowly. "In this way, Fuiyun Mountain and the reclusive immortal palace have begun to cross boundaries." Fang Han put his hands behind his back and looked up at the sky with a trace of hatred in his eyes. When he heard the news about his enemy, he wanted to rush over and kill everyone on the other side in one fell swoop. But the current situation did not allow him to do so. He only has one chance to use his trump card. In 1 hour, he will not be able to destroy Fuiyun Mountain and the reclusive immortal palace. Instead, he may be restrained by them. If he cannot escape in time, after an hour passes, he will eventually fall. But it's me. Yes. Aunt Lan nodded. She said slowly without any regrets on her face, the creatures in the earthly immortal realm are not fools. After they cross the border, although they will occupy the territory, they will also investigate the secrets of the integration of the two realms. With the reputation of the senior Tianji landlord, it will be difficult for them not to find out this. Fang Han paced in place. After pondering for a moment, he whispered to himself, the earthly immortal realm has a profound foundation and there are supreme immortals. I'm afraid the purple Xian realm won't be able to hold on for long. We can't stay in Zi Xian realm any longer. Young master, what you mean is to go to Tianyuan realm? Aunt Lan asked. No. Fang Han raised his hand and said decisively, Dawang City. Although Dawang City is safe. Aunt Ian's face was complicated. She glanced at her young master, and she had many things in her mind that she didn't know whether to say or not. Dawang City is where the Tianji Tower is located. With senior Tianji building master sitting in charge, no one dares to take action near Dawang City. Staying there is no doubt that it is extremely safe, let alone Fuiyun Mountain. Even if the earthly immortal realm is tied together, they don't dare to mess around in Dawang City. But the key is, after I and others entered Dawang City, how did they come out again? Is it possible that they will live under the protection of the master of Tianji for the rest of their lives? Without experience, even if the realm has improved, it is nothing more than rootless duckweed. Aunt Lan, you misunderstood. Fang Han shook his head and said slowly, I am not a person who is greedy for life and afraid of death. I entered Dawang City not to avoid disaster, but to go to Tianji Tower. Tianji Tower. Aunt Lan was extremely shocked. She looked at her young master in disbelief. The two of them had been practicing in the Zixuan realm for a long time, and had fought against many of the geniuses of the Zixuan realm. Although the process had ups and downs, the harvest was, but there are very few. With the resources the two have on hand, they may not be able to buy anything valuable when entering the Tianji Tower. After all, they are mainly for experience, not specifically to destroy a certain force and seize resources. Good. Fang Han nodded, and he said slowly, it's Tianji Tower. Young master, we. Aunt Lan spoke. But before he finished speaking, Fang Han raised his hand, interrupting the other person's next words. Symbols appeared in his hand, condensing into a bright scripture. Like little suns, arranged in the void. We still have this. Fang Han's eyes were deep, like an abyss with no bottom. The inheritance left by our ancestors. Aunt Lan was silent. She did not speak to dissuade her. She knew that her young master had already made up his mind after taking out this inheritance. Even if she tried to persuade him, she could not change Fang Han's mind. Having said that, this inheritance, handing it to Master Tianji is not considered a leak. After all, Master Tianji's strength has far surpassed that of a true immortal. If such a scripture falls into the hands of Master Tianji, it is not certain whether the other party will take notice of it. Besides that, I have one more thing. Fang Han put away the scriptures, and a jade slip appeared in the palm of his hand. This jade slip was given to him by Meng Qingzi at the beginning, and now it is useful. He felt that the earth and immortal world came across the boundary, and the light swallowed up a purple slip. The mysterious world may not be able to satisfy their ambitions. Sooner or later, the Tianyuan world will also be impacted. If I pass the news to Meng Qingzi now, no one can guarantee whether the Tianyuan world will sit back and watch, or join the battle. With the Tianyuan world, the addition of Meng Qingzi will probably cause a lot of trouble to the earthly immortal realm. The only thing he is not sure about at the moment is whether Meng Qingzi and others have entered the chaotic Star Sea and whether they have come back. Logically speaking, after fighting for so long, those few great emperor, it's time to decide the winner. At the same time, the border between Zixuan realm and Tianyuan realm is deserted. Two figures covered in blood passed through the void. Quickly rushed towards Tianyuan world. Yang Jian, hand over the true immortal insight in your hand, and we can spare your life. A cold voice echoed between heaven and earth. Two quasi-emperors appeared. One of them was a huge ancient beast with golden spears all over its body and wide-mouthed fangs. It was extremely ferocious, but from another angle, and also extremely powerful. Behind him, an imperial weapon rose and fell, blooming billions of divine radiances, shattering the boundless void. Hateful! Yang Jian shouted angrily. He has been in such a mess for hundreds of years. Now in the Zixuan realm, he is being hunted to such an extent. It can be said that there is no way to the sky and no door to the earth. Seeing the Tianyuan realm is right in front of you, but two quasi-emperors suddenly appeared. One of them also brought imperial soldiers. Almost all his options for survival were cut off. Don't worry, Holy Son. I have already notified Yugzu Palace. I think someone is already on the way. Beside Yang Jian, a middle-aged quasi-emperor said in a deep voice. The two realms merged, and the entire Zixuan realm already knew the news. Naturally, they also knew it, but now they cannot run towards the junction of the Zixuan realm and the earthly immortal realm. Place. Because the war there is in full swing. They have a quasi-emperor and a young genius who go there. It's hard to say whether they can find Yugzu Palace, but the chance of meeting the great emperor of Zixuan realm is very high. If you are not careful, there is a possibility of the soul flying into annihilation. Fantasy, may create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 355. Are you waiting for reinforcements from the earthly immortal realm? The huge ancient beast spoke loudly. The sound shook the sky. The imperial soldiers behind him crashed down, and the entire universe was shaking violently and was about to burst. Boom! There was a loud noise. The middle-aged quasi-emperor moved to resist. Although he blocked the blow, he was still blown millions of miles away. In mid-air, he spat out a mouthful of blood, staining the clothes in front of him red. There is no need for wishful thinking. Although the Zixuan realm is not as good as the earthly immortal realm, it is not something you can break through in a short time. And you, the true immortals of Yugzu Palace, probably don't dare to take action at will. The huge ancient beast said with cold eyes and a sure victory. The fusion of the two worlds is nothing to the creatures of the purple Xian realm. They have already experienced it once, but for the earthly immortal realm, this is the first time in their lives. He is a tyrannical figure, and they are more in awe of more terrifying existences. Before finding out, they do not even dare to step into the purple mystic realm. As long as the four characters of Tianji Luzu are suppressed, the war at this time will be limited to the great emperor between the realms. The war will last for a while, and it will not extend here. After all, it is not that Zixuan realm has no trump cards. Emperor Bai Li and Emperor Yunai have not yet joined the battle, and it is difficult to say the future outcome. You are looking for death. Do you know what will happen if you provoke Yugzu Palace? The middle-aged quasi-emperor coughed up blood. There was also an imperial weapon behind him, which shone through the mountains and rivers. The terrifying imperial power filled the air and crushed a large area of void. It was precisely because of the existence of this imperial weapon that they escaped from the Purple Xian realm. But even so, the fellow sects of Yugzu Palace in the lower realm almost perished. Only he and Yang Jiansheng survived. The forces in the earthly immortal realm can't control the Purple Xian realm at this time. If you hand over your true immortal insights and abandon your cultivation, I can spare your lives. Another quasi-emperor walked out and blocked the retreat of Yang Jian and the others. His face was cold, and his eyes opened and closed with a cold light. I can tell you that I have just sent a message to Yugzu Palace. It is estimated that the emperor will arrive soon. It is still too late for you to leave now. The middle-aged quasi-emperor took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. The name of Yugzu Palace is not very useful in the Zixuan realm. He can only bring out a great emperor. I only hope that the great emperor of Yugzu Palace, he can come faster. Otherwise, even though he is seriously injured, he may not be able to stop the two emperors from joining forces. Is it? The huge ancient beast took a step forward, releasing a huge momentum. Amidst the rumbling sound, tens of thousands of big stars cracked and then exploded above his head. The scene was very horrifying, which was caused by the impact of his breath. 2. Zixuan realm is not a place where you can come and leave whenever you want. Killing me will do you a lot of harm without any benefit. It is better to form a good relationship. I, Yugzu Palace, can guarantee that I will not be your enemy. Yang Jian spoke slowly, his voice without any waves, very calm. Even when facing the two quasi-emperors, he showed no fear. After all, quasi-emperors are nothing in Yugzu Palace. He has seen many. Oh. So what if we are enemies? After killing you and getting the true immortal consciousness, we can naturally step into the realm of the great emperor. We only need to step into the desert city and we will be safe in this life. What can you, Yugzu Palace, do to me? After I become an immortal, it's hard to say who will live and who will die. The huge ancient beast had a stern look in its eyes and a cold voice without any emotion. Hey! He took action again. In the palm of his hand, the stars were turning, the universe was shattering, and the world was opening up. In the palm of his hand, it seemed to be holding a universe, containing endless stars. Encompassing countless immortal mountains, he wanted to suppress Yang Jian and others in the backhand, and torture them to death. Bang! At the same time, behind Yang Jian and Yang Jian, another quasi-emperor also took action. He raised his hand and stretched out a beam of light. It flew out, shattered eternity, and opened a big hole in the sky. It could not be healed for a long time. Holy Sun, these two quasi-emperors are not easygoing people. You have something to save your life. If you can find an opportunity, remember to leave here quickly. As long as you enter within 1,000,000 miles of the great desert city, you can save your life. The middle-aged man's spiritual consciousness transmitted the voice, and his words contained a trace of vicissitudes of life. He understood that the two of them might be in danger today. The two quasi-emperors came with the emperor's soldiers. They wanted to kill them without getting the truth. The immortal enlightenment will not give up. Only one person who sacrifices his life to hold back the two quasi-emperors can allow the other person to find a chance to survive. No. Yang Jian spoke. The words are not finished yet. The middle-aged quasi-emperor soared into the sky, and he instantly burst into brilliant light. Endless thunder and lightning, mixed with the flames that burned down the sky, covered him. The entire battlefield was shrouded. He stood on the sky, his aura reaching the extreme, evolving with the rules of the infinite avenue, turning into a thunder waterfall, impacting in all directions, smashing the universe in his palm to pieces. Then he faced the immortal light of another quasi-emperor, and the two started a life and death battle. Countless star fields were destroyed in the aftermath of the fight between the two. At the end of the battle, how long can you hold on? The huge ancient beast roared. His hair was flying, and his roots were crystal clear. His eyes were as deep as Wang Yang's. He pinched out a magic seal and blasted forward. This is a quasi-emperor, attacking with all his strength. Such a scene, it is unimaginable, and even more terrifying than the creation of the world. The pressure of the seal fell, like an ancient magic mountain, the sky collapsed, countless stars shattered, a scene of doomsday, as if time had frozen. After this blow fell, the middle-aged quasi-emperor, even if he could block it, he would probably be severely damaged. He would no longer have the power to take action. But just when the seal was about to be suppressed, time suddenly slowed down. A huge hand stretched out from the end of the sky, boundless, like the sky. He held the seal with his hand, and then closed his fingers together. There was a bang. The seal was crushed into nothingness. Who? The huge ancient beast's expression changed. He rose into the sky and shouted coldly. Yugzu Palace, Huang Yun. A faint voice came, and everything in the world moved. In the very distance, a white divine deer, whiter than snow, without a trace of color. Its whole body was like silk and satin, surrounded by divine light. It was carrying a man wearing a jade crown and walked in the air. Come. The man's face is blurred, his breath is like a deep mountain, the long river of time is winding around his body, and the space is submerging his body. He seems to have opened up this time and wants to recreate the world. People from Yugzu Palace. The pupils of the two quasi-emperors of the Zixuan realm shrank, and a chill arose in their hearts. How is this possible? Isn't the Ming Emperor of the earthly immortal realm at war with the great Emperor Biluo and others? How could this Yugzu Palace be bypassed? The battlefield suddenly penetrated deep into the hinterland of Zixuan realm, and came to the junction of Zixuan realm and Tianyuan realm. This crossed the entire Zixuan realm. It was absolutely impossible for him to not be discovered by the Emperor of Zixuan realm. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 356. I've met Master. Meet Elder Huang. Unlike the two quasi-emperors of the Zixuan realm, Yang Jian and the middle-aged man had a flash of joy on their faces, and they quickly raised their hands and saluted. Huang. Yun nodded. He glanced at Yang Jian and the two, and after confirming that his beloved disciple was fine, he breathed a sigh of relief. The Zixuan realm is in danger, but you still dare to provoke Yugzu Palace. How brave you are! Huang Yun said softly. His words were very plain, neither happy nor angry, but the power of God surged out, shaking a large area of the starry sky, making this place shine brightly. A series of formation patterns emerged, turning into a vast world of immortal laws. Oops! The huge ancient beast felt cold in his heart. The Emperor of Yugzu Palace wants to take action. The two quasi-emperors looked at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes. Now it's no longer important to think about how the Emperor of Yugzu Palace came here. After all, everyone is here. The top priority is to consider how the two of them can escape. After chasing someone for so long, he is still ranked first in the list of geniuses in all worlds. Thinking about it with his toes, he can also understand that Yugzu Palace will not give up. Walk! The huge ancient beast shouted coldly, and waved out his huge claws, drawing an arc in the void. The imperial soldiers behind him crashed down, shattering countless stars. And he himself turned into a stream of light and rushed towards in the distance. Another quasi-emperor acted in the same way as him. Before escaping, he used his strongest magical power to hold back a great emperor. Can you leave? Huang Yun narrowed his eyes slightly and shot out two sharp rays of light. He stood on the sky and looked at the two quasi-emperors running away quickly in the distance. In his eyes, he saw the sun and moon collapsing, the stars being destroyed, and chaos filling the air. In his eyes, the avenues were densely covered with Dao patterns and intertwined with endless runes, turning into a dragnet that spread rapidly and covered hundreds of millions of miles of territory. This is a kind of pupil technique. It is extremely tyrannical and difficult to resist. Boom! The heaven and earth shook violently. Countless symbols fell from the sky and turned into huge formations, covering this place, overlapping and densely covered, like mountains of 10,000 feet, arranged on the sky. Bang! Countless magic circles were operating at the same time, locking the two quasi-emperors in the void. Before they could ask for mercy, terrifying pressure appeared out of thin air. The two of them were wiped out into nothingness at once. Is the light of fireflies worthy of competing with the bright moon? An indifferent voice sounded. Huang Yun's face was expressionless and he looked very scary. His eyes were bottomless, as if they could swallow the sun, moon, mountains, and rivers, causing the universe to collapse instantly. After confirming that the two quasi-emperors were completely wiped out, he stood in the void. On the way up, he did not choose to leave, but looked at Tianyuan realm. This is the junction of Zixuan realm and Tianyuan realm. With the strength of the emperor, he can already see the scenes in Tianyuan realm, and even some holy places. Even could not be hidden from his investigation. Is this a new world, or is the Zixuan realm wider than the earthly immortal realm? Huang Yun murmured softly. The two worlds have long been merged. Now the two worlds have become one. Even Huang Yun cannot detect that these were originally two independent worlds. With his strength, he can only see these two worlds. These places are completely different. One side is densely covered with stars, with billions of stars arranged in the starry sky, and billions of creatures live on the stars, while the other side is the same as the earthly immortal world. It is a complete continent, vast and vast. Boundless. All forces in the earthly immortal realm are ready to make moves in the Zixuan realm. If I, the Yugzu Palace, directly dominate this world, we may be able to create a different situation. Huang Yun's heart flashed with excitement. Master! At this time, Yang Jian came to Huang Yun's side, bowed respectfully, and said the front is the Tianyuan realm, but the senior Tianji building master took action to merge it into one. Tianyuan world? Huang Yun's expression moved slightly and he said in surprise, disciple, do you mean that the Tianyuan realm and the Zixuan realm were originally two independent worlds? That's how it should be. Yang Jian thought for a while and said the fusion of Zixuan realm and Tianyuan realm happened before my disciple went to the lower realm, so I don't know the specific details. Integration of two worlds, Tianji landlord. Huang Yun raised his head and looked at the Tianyuan realm again. This time he went deep into the Zixuan realm not only to rescue his disciple, but more importantly to find out the reality of the Zixuan realm. Unexpectedly, as soon as Yang Jian was rescued, he got big news. A character who can fuse the Zixuan realm and the Tianyuan realm may not be able to integrate the earthly immortal realm. If this is the case, the Tianyuan realm will need to take a closer look. To be honest with Master, the reason why the earthly immortal realm was able to merge with the Zixuan realm was because senior Tianji building master secretly took action. Yang Jian said with his hands raised. He has practiced with his master for hundreds of years, and he quite understands his temper. At the critical moment of the integration of the two worlds, all forces are taking action. Their Yugzu palace cannot pretend to be noble. For Zi the Suanjit turns a blind eye. At this time, the senior officials of their Yugzu palace may be brewing a more terrifying plan. If the Yugzu palace takes action, it will naturally not be limited to a small area and will definitely tear off a piece of fat in the Zixuan realm. Mead. Just focusing on the Zixuan world may not mean anything, but if you put your mind on the Tianyuan world, you can't say what the final result will be. Maybe the senior Tianji building owner chooses to turn a blind eye. It's also possible that Yugzu Palace will be wiped out overnight. Huang Yun's figure trembled, with an incredible look on his face, and he said in a deep voice, "Disciple, are you saying that the purple mysterious realm and the earthly immortal realm were all combined by this Tianji building master?" Good. Yang Jian nodded and made a decisive decision. This. Yes. Since he can merge with the purple Xian realm, who knows whether the Tianji building master can merge with the earthly immortal realm? Huang Yun's face was complicated, and he took a deep look at the Tianyuan world. A trace of fear flashed deep in his eyes. Fortunately, he did not send a message. If he had sent the news by himself, then Yugzu Palace broke through the boundary and came. In such a situation, it's unimaginable. Yugzu Palace might provoke a big enemy invisibly. That is a terrifying figure who can merge with the earthly immortal world. Before you understand his attitude, Yugzu Palace should not act rashly. Master, I don't know. The senior master of Tianji building is terrifying and unpredictable. Even though he lives in seclusion in Tianji building, he can see everything in the world. Even if he is a great emperor, his thoughts cannot be hidden from the eyes of the senior master of Tianji Tower. Yang Jian said again. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 357. This. Huang Yun's body was shaken again. Is this fake? In his opinion, the master of Tianji who can take action to fuse the purple mysterious realm and the earthly immortal realm is a powerful person with terrifying strength. He has not escaped, but he can also deduce the secrets of Tianji. This is simply an existence that cannot be looked up to. Disciple, are your remarks true? Huang Yun said in a deep voice. In the earthly immortal world, it is not that there are no people who are good at deducing the secrets of heaven. On the contrary, there are quite a lot of them. But every one of these people has a lot of trouble and 7 injuries. They have many disadvantages. You must be careful when you go out. I am afraid that something unexpected will happen to me. After all, divine punishment is not just a form of thunder disaster. Sometimes man-made disasters are also within the scope of divine punishment. Most of these people live in a simple way and their strength is not too high, but this Tianji building owner, obviously it's beyond his understanding. Everything my disciple said is true. Yang Jian nodded. A jade slip appeared in his hand and was sent to Huang Yun. He quickly said, these are the various lists compiled by the senior master of Tianji. The disciple's strength is low, but he is lucky enough to be on the list. Oh. Huang Yun glanced at Yang Jian with a deep look, reached out to take the jade slip, and scanned the contents. First was the Emperor's list, then the Emperor's soldiers list, and finally the 10,000 Realms Genius list. After reading the content from beginning to end, Huang Yun was silent for a long time. He was sure. These lists must have been released before the Earth Immortal Realm merged. Since at that time, the Master Tianji had already released the Emperor list, in this way, the Earth Immortal Realm had already been released to the Master Tianji. No more secrets. Has the Master of Tianji Tower known about the Immortal Killing Platform? Huang Yun's expression is not very good. This is his master's weapon. It is very famous in the earthly immortal world. In the eyes of everyone, Taoist Zixu has become an immortal, so his weapons are naturally immortal weapons. But only then did several true disciples of the Su Palace realize that the immortal killing platform had not been promoted to immortal weapons at all. Their master had refining a weapon. And now the immortal killing platform has been stored in the forbidden area of the back mountain, so it is not easy to use. Number 1 on the list of geniuses from all over the world. Huang Yun saw a familiar name. He turned his head and glanced at Yang Jian, feeling a sense of relief in his heart. How can this be a fluke? This is clearly the case, surpassing countless geniuses. Even in the earthly immortal world, no one can surpass him. Some people used to say that Yang Jian has the appearance of a true immortal. Most people complimented Yugzu Palace on the surface, but in fact they didn't think so in their hearts. But today, with this list out, everything is clear. There are countless geniuses in the world, and Yang Jian of Yugzu Palace is the leader. Such people cannot become immortals. Who else can become immortals? Yes, my disciple, you should guard against arrogance and impetuosity, and do not underestimate the world's heroes. Huang Yun encouraged him. Although he had never met the master of Tianji Tower, he actually felt a sense of sympathy for each other at this moment. For no other reason. Just because he used to feel that his disciple was the strongest. Now he feels that his disciple is the strongest. Look, it turns out that heroes see the same thing. Disciples must obey their master's orders. Yang Jian handed over his hand. As if he had thought of something, he took out a jade box made of divine gold again and sent it to Huang Yun. This jade box was no more than half a foot high, crystal clear, and there was a ball of divine light inside, shining and elegant. Apart from the mysterious divine rules, just one glance at it makes people feel like they want to understand the truth. In the dark, it seems as if there is a supreme immortal chanting sutras in the airs. The sutras cut through the long river of time, from eternity to eternity. The past has flowed to the present time. Master, this is my disciple. Under the guidance of the senior master of Tianji building, I have just gained the enlightenment of true immortality. I still ask master to serve me. Yang Jian said. This insight is extremely precious. If it falls in the hands of ordinary practitioners, its value may not be as valuable as a true immortal skill, but it falls on the peak of the great emperor. Or, if it falls on a true immortal, in the hands of the Supreme Being, the value is different. Because this realization is very likely to give birth to a real immortal. Good. Huang Yun exclaimed in admiration. He didn't expect that after the space channel was cut off and Yang Jian lost the support of Yugzu Palace, he could still gain true immortal enlightenment. This is simply incredible. You know, there are many great emperors in the Zixuan realm. If they take action, the difficulty for Yang Jian to obtain the true immortal enlightenment will be increased exponentially. But in the end, Yang Jian still completes the task. With this enlightenment, he waits until he comes to rescue. My disciple's trip has lived up to everyone's expectations. After returning to Yugzu Palace, I will personally report to the master and ask him to bestow immortal magic. Huang Yun glanced at Yang Jian, and then turned his attention to the middle-aged quasi-emperor standing aside. He took out a bottle of elixir, sent it to the other party, and said with emotion. Only you and my disciples survived this trip. It can be seen that it was difficult and dangerous. Your efforts can be seen in Yugzu Palace. In the near future, there will be a heavy reward. Please accept this bottle of elixir first. After returning to Yugzu Palace, I will report it to Master one by one. Thank you, Elder. The middle-aged quasi-emperor reached out to take the elixir. He looked a little hesitant and wanted to say something, but after a moment, he sighed softly and gave up his thoughts. If you have anything to say, you may as well say it directly. You are also a disciple of Yugzu Palace, and you have protected my disciple's life. I can make the decision, and I will make you a promise first. As long as it is within my ability, I can speak out. Huang Yun glanced at the middle-aged quasi-emperor, as if aware of what he was thinking, and said, "This." The middle-aged quasi-emperor pursed his lips, holding the elixir in his palm. After pondering for a long time, he bowed and said, "It is my duty to protect the Holy Sun. I dare not take any credit." "Oh?" Huang Yun looked surprised and said somewhat puzzledly, "You don't want a reward? This is strange." After practicing for countless years, this is the first time he has seen someone who doesn't want rewards. Could it be that the Yugzu palace behind him is no longer attractive to him? In other words, he thinks, Yugzu palace couldn't come up with anything that caught his eye, so he didn't plan to reward him? No. The middle-aged quasi-emperor murmured at the corner of his mouth. He had been hesitating whether he should say what was in his heart. But it doesn't matter. Huang Yun's voice became a few minutes heavier, like morning bells and evening drums, echoing in the void, making people's blood boil. "Below, below." The middle-aged quasi-emperor gritted his teeth, as if he had made up his mind, and said in a deep voice, "I want to become an emperor." Huang Yun's eyes widened, and he felt a little displeased in his heart. How could it be so easy to become an emperor? Although he is already a quasi-emperor, becoming an emperor is not a matter of a word, even with the guidance of his master. But whether he can become an emperor or not depends on his own destiny. For some people, becoming an emperor is just a matter of course, but for some people, they can't become an emperor despite exhausting their whole life. If this middle-aged man has the potential to become an emperor, posture, then he cannot be an outer disciple of Yugzu Palace, but one of his senior brothers. It can be said that his hope of becoming emperor is extremely slim. If he wants this reward now, the final result is that he can only. It's disappointing. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 358. Becoming an emperor requires long-term planning. Huang Yun said in a deep voice. The implication is not difficult to understand. Huang Yun was hinting to him, how about changing to a condition? Although Yugzu Palace is strong, it does not mean that whoever can become the emperor can become the emperor. If Yugzu Palace if Gong has this ability, the earthly immortal realm has long been dominated by Yugzu Palace. Elder Huang. The middle-aged quasi-emperor pursed his lips and said in a deep voice, "Actually, I have quite a lot of savings during this time, but I still have a long way to go to become an emperor." What's the meaning? Huang Yun was confused. Does becoming an emperor have anything to do with savings? It's not like whoever has a rich fortune will definitely become an emperor. To be honest with Elder Huang, there is an opportunity to become emperor in Tianji Tower, but it requires equal exchange. With the strength of the next person, there is some power that cannot be achieved, so. The middle-aged quasi-emperor secretly observed Huang Yun, and he was worried. He didn't know whether his proposal would be rejected by Huang Yun. If Huang Yun didn't nod, it is very likely that Yugzu Palace will not pay attention to his proposal. After all, Huang Yun still has a lot of say in Yugzu Palace. Opportunity to become emperor? Huang Yun narrowed his eyes slightly, took a deep look at the middle-aged quasi-emperor, and said thoughtfully, "You mean, Master Tianji can guide others to become emperors, but he has to pay some price." This is not surprising to him. Judging from his understanding of the Master of Tianji, he is a fierce man who can integrate the earth and immortal world. Isn't it just a matter of minutes to guide others to become emperors? Just like him, a great emperor, to guide others becoming a saint is not difficult. There is indeed a price to pay. The middle-aged quasi-emperor held up his hands and said, "But it is not the guidance of the senior Tianji building master, but the senior himself personally deduced a place that is most suitable for the chance of becoming an emperor. From some time ago to the present, there have been no fewer than 4 or 5 people who have become emperors in the Tianji Tower. Oh! Huang Yun raised his eyebrows, and there was a huge wave in his heart. 4 or 5 people, great emperor. What is this concept? It is equivalent to the Tianji Tower master, who invisibly created 4 or 5 top forces. Each emperor has undoubtedly the peak combat power among any force. This way, if the owner of Tianji is willing, wouldn't it be easy to create a force more terrifying than Yugzi Palace? This is a little too scary. Originally, the master of Tianji was already awe-inspiring, but now he has made many great emperors pop up. What does this mean? Do you want to quickly improve your world level? I am afraid. Only this explanation can make sense. Master, there are actually not only opportunities to become emperor in Tianji Tower, but also, the way to become an immortal. Yang Jian said at the right time. Huang Yun's face was startled, and his expression was dull. It took him a long time to react, and he said in disbelief, "Disciple, what do you mean by the way to become an immortal?" Right. Yang Jian nodded. This. Huang Yun looked at Yang Jian, and then at the true immortal insight in his hand. Suddenly, he felt that the true immortal insight in his hand no longer smelled good. This matter must be considered in the long run. Huang Yun had a thoughtful expression on his face. He turned to look at Tianyuan realm. After a long time, he withdrew his eyes and said in a deep voice. The earthly immortal realm and the Zixuan realm have just merged, and there are many affairs. You two, please follow me back to Yugzi Palace and report today's events to the headmaster. A transcendent force that can guide others to become emperors or even immortals. Yugzi Palace cannot help but treat it with caution. After all, that force will not dislike having too many top-level combat forces. Correct. Huang Yun seemed to have thought of something and asked again how many people know that Master Tianji can guide others to become emperors or even immortals. Well. Yang Jian's expression froze. It was a bit difficult for him to answer Master's words. Is there anyone in the Zixuan realm and Tianyuan realm who doesn't know this news? Everyone should know it. Yang Jian said. Everyone knows. Huang Yun frowned. He smelled something unusual in these 4 words. If everyone knew about it, how could the forces of Zixuan realm and Tianyuan realm sit still? Everyone must not be thinking about it. Thinking of becoming an emperor? Especially those people who are just a hair away from becoming an emperor. By analogy. What about those who are at the peak of the emperor? Thinking of this, a bright light flashed in Huang Yun's mind, and he picked up the jade in his hand again. Jane glanced at it, found the list of emperors, and observed them word for word from top to bottom. The 9th on the emperor list is Emperor Bai Li, the 10th on the emperor list is Emperor Yunai. Huang Yun suddenly realized at this time. Although their Yugzi Palace has not participated in the war for the time being, they can be said to be well aware of everything that happened on the battlefield. Originally, he thought that the Zixuan realm was nothing more than this. It was just an underworld, and it was almost pushing sideways. Now, in addition to the underworld, there are many other forces participating in the war. On the front battlefield, the earthly immortal world has formed a crushing force. The side of the purple mysterious world has no power to parry. But now it seems. It's not what everyone thinks. There are still many great emperors in the Zixuan realm who have not come forward at all. At least their 2 strongest emperors are currently missing. The most likely thing is that the 2 of them have gone to become immortals. Su Gong, who had just received the news, could guess this. The 2 emperors of the Zixuan realm were not fools. How could they not think of it? If these 2 emperors participated in the war, the frontal battlefield might still be in turmoil for a while. But if the 2 of them didn't come, Zixuan realm couldn't stop it at all. But think about it differently. If these 2 great emperors really returned as immortals, what would it be like? Even if only one immortal returned, Zixuan realm would have after all, the destructive power caused by the real immortal is unimaginable. The Zixuan realm is indeed not that simple. It is worthy of stepping out of the world of ancient immortal Suanmo in the past year. Huan Yun's heart trembled, and he couldn't help but clench the jade slips in his hands. This news was very important to Yugzu Palace. He had to report back to the headmaster immediately. Let Yugzu Palace make a new plan, otherwise, Yugzu Palace would be in trouble in the future. Gong and Zixuanja are facing each other head-on, and the losses may not be small. After all, they may also have true immortals appear. And all this, is this all the master of Tianji plotting secretly? Huang Yunji glanced at Tianyuan realm fearfully, and a layer of cold sweat broke out on his back. At this moment, even though he was a great emperor, he felt a feeling in his heart that as a chess piece, he had no control over his fate. With the help of himself and others, strength cannot withstand the general trend at all. And the integration of the two worlds is the general trend. People like them can only follow this general trend, ups and downs, and if they are not careful, there is the possibility of overturning. Without today's news, who could think about it, Zi Suanja, who looks extremely weak on the surface, has actually been holding back his ultimate move. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 359. That's all, go back to Yugzu Palace first. Huang Yun thought for a long time and sighed leisurely. After taking a deep look at Tianyuan world, he waved his sleeves and took Yang Jian and the two of them out of here quickly. Tianyuan world. Dawang City, inside the Tianji Tower. Li Yun stood in front of the door, dressed in a green robe, standing with his hands behind his back, looking at the end of the sky, overlooking the changing winds and clouds. Everything that happened in the earthly immortal realm and the purple Xian realm could not be hidden from his detection. What a one-sided battle! Li Yun whispered. This situation is not what he wants to see. There is no threat to the earthly immortal realm, and he only needs to fight hard to dominate the world. Isn't the role of his Tianji building small? After all, he merges the two realms are not delivering food to the earthly immortal realm. The possibility of relying on the strength of Zixuan realm to resist the earthly immortal realm is very low. It will take some time for Bai Li and Yunai to come out. When they come out, maybe the Zixuan realm is gone. During this period, he has to find a way to slow down the pace of the earthly immortal realm, at least not to let them go so smoothly. It seems it's time to let him go out for a walk. Li Yun remained motionless and uttered two words. Funeral day. Meet the owner. A burly figure appeared, wearing a purple robe and an imperial crown. He looked majestic and majestic. There was no white in his eyes. They were pitch black and seemed to be able to swallow everything. The first time he appeared, he bowed his hands and saluted with a very respectful attitude. There is no need to call me master, just the same as everyone else. Li Yun waved his hand. At this moment, in his heart, he had to sigh again at the power of the system. A good zombie emperor had his character suddenly distorted. The current zombie emperor has a lot of differences from the original zombie emperor. The difference is different. His change is even more thorough than that of Ling Xiao. Even his memory has been modified a lot, and he has completely become a tool man. The junior was buried in heaven and met the senior master of Tianji Tower. The burial emperor raised his hands and said, Li Yun nodded, turned around and glanced at the burial emperor. After confirming that his injuries had recovered, he nodded again and said, it seems that you have gained a lot of benefits in Tianji Tower during this period. Thanks to the senior poster who took me in, the junior has gained so much. The zombie emperor said respectfully. The Tianji Tower is different from the blood demon realm. It is outside the world and there is no heavenly suppression. Theoretically speaking, as long as the cultivation level keeps up, you can break through any realm. He has to do it several times before breaking through the realm of true immortals. But in the end, he suppressed it. Because he understood that becoming an emperor still has an imperial calamity. How can becoming an immortal not happen? What if he provoked the calamity of becoming an immortal, and at that time, the Tianji Tower or the Great Huangcheng will be in the center of the Thunder Tribulation, and he is not worried that the Thunder Tribulation will hurt the owner of Tianji. But if it hurts the flowers and plants, and attracts the dissatisfaction of the senior poster, what should he do? This is also your destiny. Li Yun withdrew his eyes, continued to look at the outside world, and said, now, do you still have the idea of sacrifice to the world and lay the foundation for your own immortality? No. The zombie emperor spoke quickly. He knew that the senior Tianji building master in front of him could see through his own thoughts. Now he didn't dare to have any thoughts, for fear that he would be killed directly in the next second. Very good. Li Yun spat out 2 words lightly and continued, you can leave now. Yes. The zombie emperor nodded. Just as he was about to take a step forward, he suddenly pulled back. He could hardly believe his ears. What did he just hear? Can he leave? Is this true? Although his memory has been modified, he had learned a lot, but he remembered clearly why he was taken into the Tianji Tower. He couldn't believe that the senior owner of the Tianji Tower would let him go so easily. In his memory, after he came to the Tianji Tower, good food and drink, no hardship, no suffering, and no punishment at all. Just letting yourself leave like this, no matter how you look at it, it's like a dream. It's really incredible. Is the senior really planning to let the junior leave? The zombie emperor asked in a low voice. How? Li Yun turned around and said, a little funny, you don't want to leave, that's just right. I am still a doorman. From today on, I will be the doorman in Tianji Tower. A person who is number 1 on the emperor's list is standing at the Tianji building to guard the door. Those other characters on the emperor's list who have not been on the list may have to vomit 3 liters of blood as soon as they hear the news. It is not very harmful, but extremely insulting. Senior has misunderstood, junior will leave now. The zombie emperor hurriedly saluted. He glanced at Li Yun's face secretly. After confirming that the senior had no intention of stopping him, he quickly stepped out of the Tianji Tower. The moment he left the Tianji Tower, his body turned into a stream of light and disappeared outside the city gate. After a while, the entire Tianyuan world was gone from the aura of the buried emperor. It seemed that he was going straight to the Zixuan world. The specific destination was not there before he stopped. One can tell exactly where he is going. It won't be long before another true immortal is born. Li Yun watched the burying emperor go away and said quietly. When a new true immortal is born, the turmoil is terrifying. After all, the new supreme true immortal also needs territory and even more men. No matter where the burying emperor is, the immortal realm will probably face the earth immortal realm in the future. After all, the buried emperor is not a mediocre person. Although his memory has been changed, his true nature is still there. Li Yun asked just now because he wanted to see his heart deep down, what are the thoughts? As far as the results are concerned, there is no problem. The system is as reliable as ever. Send away the buried emperor. Li Yun walked back to Tianji Tower. And in the outside world, many people are still standing under the major lists, looking up at the sky. Many of them will be here for a long time to see if the lists will change. No matter which list ranking changes, it is big news. If the emperor ranking changes, it will cause an uproar, enough to shake several worlds. After all, the characters on the emperor's list are not small figures. Their names disappear because they are either dead or have become immortals. Any one of them is enough to make the melon-eating crowd discuss it for a long time. In the crowd, there is a man in white, with an outstanding demeanor. He is dressed in white and is not stained by dust. He has a handsome face and holds a light green umbrella in his hand. He does not look outstanding. After all, there are too many handsome men and beautiful women in the world of cultivation. The only thing worth noting is that he seemed to be the only one holding an umbrella in the clear sky. Many people turned their heads to look over, but when they looked back, they seemed to have no impression of what had just happened. Even the appearance of the man in white could not be described. Eccentric. A saint-level figure noticed something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what was wrong for a while. At that moment, he turned his head and glanced at the man in white again. This time, he only saw a back. The man in white was slowly walking towards Tianji Tower, and on the handle of his exposed umbrella, the word Ji Chen was clearly displayed. Ji Chen. The saint was startled, then quickly reacted and looked up at the sky. Soon, he also found an imperial soldier named Ji Chen on the imperial soldier list. 11th place, Tribulation Dust Umbrella. The world it belongs to, earthly immortal world. Refiner, Emperor Tai. Owner, Tai Emperor. Fantasy, me. Create a secret building at the beginning. Author, Mavericks Flying. Chapter 360. Emperor Tai. The saint rubbed his eyes, a little in disbelief. He turned around and looked at the emperor list again. Under the Emperor Zhang Tian and Emperor Ming, the four words Emperor Tai stood out. Extremely conspicuous. Emperor Tai came to Tianyuan realm. The saint murmured. This is a bit too unbelievable. The Purple Xian realm and the Tianyuan realm have just merged, and the two realms are still inseparable. How could there be a great emperor who quickly traveled across a big world? He came to the Tianyuan realm. After all, a world is very big. Even a great emperor cannot cross it in a short time. In addition, many great emperors in the Purple Xian realm are very hostile to the immortal realm. How could they just watch? An emperor from another world flew over my head? Maybe I saw it wrong. The saint shook his head. He glanced again in the direction where the man in white left just now. This time, the road was bustling with people, but the man holding the umbrella had disappeared without a trace. It was as if he had never appeared before. Inside the Tianji building, the man in white put away his light green umbrella. His temperament was as gentle as jade. He was dressed in a long gown and looked gentle and elegant, just like a scholar. He showed no sign of the power of an emperor. He glanced at Tianji Tower without leaving any trace, and was secretly shocked. Is this the Tianji Tower? He had already known about the reputation of Tianji Tower in the earthly immortal realm. When he saw it today, it turned out that the facts were better than the rumors. Even with his current strength, he could not find any clues. Lord Immortal, how do you feel? Li Yun was lying on a bench in the Tianji building, his hair hanging down naturally, and the starlight flowing like a starry river, lingering with a mysterious charm. There was a smile on the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were extremely deep, as if he had seen through everything. Tai Emperor Yi looked puzzled, glanced left and right, suddenly came back to his senses, and chuckled. Junior Tai, I have met the senior master of Tianji Tower. I don't know why the senior would say the four words Eternal Lord True Monarch. This is one of the supreme true immortals in the earthly immortal realm. His reputation is astonishing throughout the ages. The younger generation has long admired him and regrets that he has never been able to see him in his lifetime. If Senior Chang Sheng is also in the Tianji Tower, I would like to ask Senior if he can make an introduction on his behalf. Is it? Li Yun's smile did not change. He turned over and sat up, looked at Emperor Tai levelly, and said as if nothing had happened. The method of the 9 transformations of the Yuan Shen is indeed mysterious and extraordinary, but after all, there are some connections between the 9 bodies. Could it be that you think this magical power can be hidden from my eyes? Well. Emperor Tai looked embarrassed, cupped his hands and said, Junior doesn't know what Senior is talking about. Oh? Li. Yun remained calm and said softly, since you don't know what I'm talking about, let me put it another way. Do you know about the underworld emperor in the earthly immortal realm now? Naturally we know this. Emperor Tai's expression showed a hint of admiration, and he said in a deep voice, fellow Taoist Emperor Ming, he is amazingly talented. He has only practiced for 100,000 years, and he has reached the peak of the emperor. Even the senior poster praised him highly. He ranked second on the emperor list, while the junior only ranked third. He. Li Yun had a joking look in his eyes, as if he were watching a show, and continued, if the Piao Miao emperor, who is sixth on the emperor list, is here, I'm afraid it will be another story. After all, the 9 incarnations of the immortal true monarch Yuan Shen, apart from his true body, also has 8 clones, all of which are emperors. He alone has 2 spots on the emperor list. One is the Piao Miao emperor, the old enemy of the Hades emperor. As for the other one, named Tai, am I right? Correct. There is another one who came to Zixuan realm some time ago and entered the inheritance place left by the Fang clan. Later, he was ambushed by Meng Qingzi. Now he is fighting with Meng Qingzi in the Chaos Star Sea. Right. This. Emperor Tai hesitated. The calm expression on his face was gone, replaced by a solemn one. The fact that he transformed into 9 is his biggest secret. No one in the entire earthly immortal world knows about it, only he and the other 8 original bodies know about it. But today, the owner of Tianji said it casually. This made him feel a little uneasy. Originally, he allowed Emperor Tai to enter the Tianji Tower just because he wanted to see how terrifying this person who had combined the Purple Xian realm and the earthly immortal realm was. But what I didn't expect was that when I entered the Tianji Tower, I didn't see any secrets. Instead, everything about myself was exposed. To know. Even the Supreme Immortal from Yugzu Palace cannot see through his own trump card. The seniors deduced the method of heavenly secrets, and the juniors were convinced. Emperor Tai sighed softly and reluctantly handed over his hand. Although the inheritance you received in the past came from the same source as the underworld emperor, the world behind this inheritance is nothing more than mediocre in my eyes. Li Yunkin said. Back then, in the chaos near the earthly immortal realm, there were 2 ancient corpses floating in. They had been dead for an unknown number of years, but the corpses were still immortal, with a terrifying aura stirring. Every drop of blood could be broken through a world. If it flows into the earthly immortal realm, to put it bluntly, even a corpse can completely crush the earthly immortal realm. At that time, the Changsheng Emperor, who was only in the early stage of the Great Emperor, suddenly felt something in his heart and stepped into the chaos. He saw these 2 ancient corpses. Fortunately, the corpses were not far from the earthly immortal realm. He got the inheritance from one of them. But when he wanted to find the second corpse, the other corpse seemed to be born with spiritual wisdom. In between, he disappeared, as if he had left this chaos. At that time, he felt very regretful in his heart. Because he knew that there were countless terrifying worlds in the chaos, and their fairy world was just one of the vast worlds. That's all, they may not be eye-catching in the world. The origin of these 2 corpses is very likely to hide a more terrifying world behind them. He really wanted to find the world behind them through the corpses, but the result disappointed him. All we can know is that the 2 corpses were hostile. After a great battle between the 2 sides, they both died. After drifting in the chaos for unknown years, they attracted his attention. He himself also got one of them because of it. The inheritance of one of them, and then soared into the sky. From the early stage of the Great Emperor, it didn't take long for him to become a true immortal. He transformed into an unparalleled figure in the earthly immortal world. With a stamp of his feet, the entire earthly immortal world would be shaken. He relying on the inheritance left by the corpse, he almost defeated all the invincible opponents in the world. When he was bored, he relied on the inheritance records to condense 9 incarnations. Each incarnation has its own identity and is in a different camp. Some are also they were even hostile to each other. With this method, he almost played tricks on all the creatures in the earthly immortal realm. Originally, he thought he would stop in the realm of true immortal and die of old age in the earthly immortal realm. Suddenly, a woman named Hades Emperor appeared in the sky. It was only then that he suddenly came to his senses and realized that the other corpse had not left the immortal world, but had found his successor after countless years.